that way, anyone who is not able to be here tonight can go back and watch it and get the information that they need. So yeah, I'm glad to see you all. I hope that everybody had, a great holiday, and a great, a break from school. And your seniors have been working really hard, getting a lot of tasks done. I always tell, seniors and sometimes their parents, like, if you don't hear a lot from me, it means that we are really, really busy working on all kinds of different things. And so, we have seniors who have been working really hard all semester long and are buttoning some things up and finishing things up, as far as their applications go. And then some seniors who are like finally catching their breath and ready to dive into college planning and thinking about next year, and also really inspired by a lot of other students here, when it comes to getting things done. So yeah, I appreciate you all taking the time to be here tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the FAFSA application that is set to open next month. And it's kind of funny, next month is actually Friday. So we are kind of doing this meeting a little bit early, but it's nice for you all to just have a little heads up and know, kind of know what to expect. When it, and the thing that is also interesting about this year is that the FAFSA application has been redesigned. And, for those of you who are filling it out for the first time, many of you are, it will be, this redesign is just the design to you because it's the first time. So you didn't see what it looked like before. But there are some parents for whom this will not be their first rodeo with the FAFSA, and it will look different. Some of the terminology is a little bit different. And so for this meeting tonight, some of the slides and some of the content that I have is going to be similar to information that, you may have known before if this is not your first time dealing with FAFSA. And then some of it's a little bit different. And then some of it is to be determined. Like, to be really honest, they have kind of kept us, they've really kept things tight and kind of under wraps. There's some information that has been circulating for a while, for, at least like 6 months, about certain terminology that is new and different in the application, and then things that are very much the same. So I just want to like give y'all a heads up that, like, if you start listening and you're like, I already know this, I've already heard this, stick around, because there are a few things that are different and are known. And then there are a couple of like little things that are up in the air that I actually don't have the answer to, and until I lay eyes on the application itself. I think some of you all know my daughter graduated from Crosstown last May. And so I was filling out this FAFSA application this time last year with my child. And so it was really great for me to finally see it for myself, of course, as a parent, but also, as a college advisor, to be able to say, like, okay, these are the questions, these are the ones that are tricky, and this is where, things can really easily get tripped up. So I am probably just as anxious as the rest of you to see this application, because I have lots of curiosities. Anyhow, I'll get rolling on these slides so that way, you can get the information that you need. And, a lot of this information is coming directly from the studentaid.gov website. And so if you are in a position tonight where you're not able to look at all of this information or follow along, it's okay. Like, just take what you can. And you'll be able to catch the rest at some point. Or if you're really feeling like you're ready for a deep dive, you can go look into their website. They have great resources. So, first I want to talk a little bit about the redesign. There was a FAFSA Simplification Act that basically made it so that, they were able to honor students and award them more Pell Grants, which is very encouraging. There are fewer questions. Hooray. We like that. And then one of the other big changes is that parents should be able to transfer federal tax information directly into FAFSA, which is like, I just have to say, with everything that I read, is a little bit ambiguous, because in the past, there's been a tool that is within the FAFSA application that was able to do that. It was called like the IRS data retrieval tool. I think it was a little bit clunky. And so now they are hopeful that this tool that's able to basically do the same thing, it must be better. It must be like, that must be the thing, is that it must be that this transfer tool must work better. So that's the thing that I keep hearing that everyone's really excited about, is that they're trying to make it easy for you to be able, as a parent, to, of course, after you set up your account and you log in and you actually get to the application, for all of that information to just like automatically extract from the IRS website, so that way, you don't have to fumble around looking for your 1040 from 2022. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Anyhow, I just want to make sure that you all know that, like, again, for those of you who are curious about like, why is the FAFSA opening so late? It normally opens in October. It's opening in December. It's because they did all of this wacky redesign, and maybe like, I'm probably jumping the gun by calling it wacky, because what it very well may be great. But just know that those are three big things. So I just read today on their website, because I'm a nerd and I'm always checking, because I'm anxious to know when the application is going to open. And I was a little bit bummed to read the text that's on your screen, which is that students and families will be able to complete and submit FAFSA forms online by December 31st. We expect applications to peak in late January and February 24th. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that a little ambiguous. I would like to know a little sooner. I would like for it to be open sooner. And I know that your students do too. We have a lot of seniors right now who are so dear and so thoughtful and responsible and intentional, and showing up at my office saying like, I think I'm supposed to be doing something. And I often, that's what I tell them, is that like, our hands are kind of tied. I mean, not entirely, but when it comes to the financial aid part and like figuring out the cost of everything, our hands are kind of tied until they open the FAFSA. And all along they've been saying December, and I'm trying to be responsible and prepared and prepare you all for December 1, right? But here we are today. I read December 31st. But what can we do? But I just want to give you all that heads up. This is directly from the studentaid.gov website. And I think that's the latest update. And of course, once I know anything, I'm definitely going to let all of you parents know, because, the FAFSA is an application that is, of course, free, but then also the money is distributed on a first come, first serve basis. So you have clear incentive to, wait until 12:01, whenever it is that it opens, and go ahead and fill it out and submit. I don't know if their website is going to be able to handle it, because it's a lot of traffic, but we'll see what happens. I just know that we're all ready. Okay. This here, it says here, step 1, nah, these slides don't necessarily go in steps. I have used some of these slides with our seniors, and I just want to make sure that, you all have kind of your own set of slides, parents, so that you know what to expect. So you're going to use this studentaid.gov website. And really, truly, like, if you have FAFSA questions, or if you get off this call and you're like, I clearly have, a lot of questions, and I would just want to do my own homework and my own research, hit that up. Check out studentaid.gov. They have a myriad of resources there. I mean, I use it, students use it, parents use it constantly, just to like read the details and read the fine print and try to decipher this, mysterious, this mysterious, governing, body that is studentaid.gov. So you're going to use that website, right, to create your FSA ID, which is the second thing on here. And I have like parent and with like an S and FSA IDs because, if you are a household that has two parents and you provide like the majority of the financial support for your Crosstown senior, you're gonna both actually create, like, both parents, whether you are married and you are also, and I'm fumbling here, like whether you're married or you're married and like maybe one parent is a step parent. That's the case in my household. Like my daughter has a stepdad. And so he and I will both, when we fill out the FAFSA this year for her, we will both create our own FSA IDs and we'll both fill out the form. So just so there are a lot of families who, are like, look a lot of different ways, are non-traditional. The FAFSA is used to that. And they have descriptions of like, okay, if this is your scenario, here is what you do. Or, and I think that ultimately, like, they want to get parents involved, but it is often the case, and it's extremely common that maybe there's one parent who cannot be involved. And maybe even sometimes, like, technically both parents cannot be involved in this process. Okay, like FAFSA has, okay, if that's the case for you, then we will this. And I can help navigate that with any of you who have that situation, because it's totally like common and normal. And I'm just glad that like they have got solutions and resources for that. They even have one, and I think it's in here later. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Anyhow, students will also create their own FSA ID. Okay, and see, that's the part that gets a little bit funny, because like, like if we're doing online shopping, I'll say, like, hey, daughter, like, just log into my account and you can buy this thing using my information. It doesn't work that way with FAFSA. Each parent has to have their own FSA ID and the student has to have their own FSA ID. Like, they really are intentional about differentiating who is who and what role they have, so that they can get the information and get like a better idea or a picture of everybody's role in the household. So these roles, as I mentioned, are student, right? That's your Crosstown senior, parent, and that could be two parents. That could be, like I said, biological mom and stepdad, as it is in my household, or it might just be mom, or it might just be grandmother with guardianship. Like, we'll figure it out. We'll work it out. So just know that like that is a role. Like, those are the actual names. And then they added this new name here this year called contributor. And that's a little scary for parents, because we feel like, oh my gosh, does that mean that I have to pay? I'm signing up for this account that I have to pay some difference if there's like not enough federal aid and then the college wants to. No, you are not responsible for the cost of college if you are a contributor under the new FAFSA application. It totally just means that you are an individual who is adding tax information to the FAFSA. So like, for example, last year, when I filled out FAFSA for my daughter, I filled it out and I created an FSA ID, right? Because I'm a parent, and my daughter did. And when I filled it out as the parent, I told FAFSA, yes, I'm married. And yes, this is how we file our taxes. And this is my husband's name, who is her stepdad. But he never had to actually create an FSA ID. And this year, somebody in that scenario will. Like my husband is going to have to create that FSA ID in order to be considered a contributor and in order for them to process it, you know, because they're going to see, like, if I just put him on there and try to do it the same way I did last year, they're going to, you know, flag it and say, you know, you got to fix this, which is not the end of the world, but it just kind of slows things down. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about like if there's corrections or like any mistakes that are made. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so just so you know, the roles are student, parent, and contributor, and you can be a parent and a contributor at the same time. And I think that for people who are adults who maybe are going back to school or are just independent of their parents who are filling out the FAFSA, because yes, they do too. They can actually, like, the student in that case would be a contributor. That's not what we're doing necessarily, but in our case, it's like probable that the parent and the contributor are going to have the overlap. So just know that like that word is going to come up, and as I understand it, it makes people a little nervous because they're like, oh my gosh, does this mean I have to pay for it? No, it does not. You're not responsible for paying for it. Okay. So I'm going to say something. I'm going to show you the slide that is quite contradictory to one of the first slides, right? I told you earlier, oh, the new redesign is going to let you pull your tax information using a tool that is magical, and you're just going to retrieve that and pull that from the IRS website, right? So that's the big difference. You don't have to fumble with documents. But then, you know, their website, maybe they haven't updated it. I figured that I would go ahead and tell you what those documents are in the case that this tool fumbles and doesn't it doesn't work. We can't use it. And so I'm just going to go through this list. It's a lot. You don't have to write it all down. And I'm hoping that it will not overwhelm you, but it would be irresponsible of me not to tell you that you would need these things to fill out the FAFSA. So obviously your social security number, parents, and students are going to need their social security number in order to fill out their portion of the FAFSA. So when they log into their student account, they've got their social security number. And then you're going to have your social security number for your own account. And, you know, they use all of that information to match up your accounts to be like, oh, okay, I see that, you know, and I'm just saying this because I see him on the screen. It's like, okay, I see that Evie Turley, this is her social security number. She listed her parents, and we're going to match everybody up. And then that way we can process her application. So parents, you need your social security number. Your student needs their social security number. You also need it. They're going to need your number. There's just a whole lot of numbers flying around here. Okay. That is why I'm hopeful that this tool that they're promising in the redesign is going to work. And again, I apologize for giving you this like contradictory information, but it's what we've got. And I would rather put it all out there so that y'all can be aware and prepared. And I apologize for it being overwhelming. But it's just this is a weird time, but it's going to be fine because they've redesigned plenty of things in the past. And, you know, I'm just ready. I think we're all just ready. So you're going to need your driver's license if you have one, or a state ID. Same with a student. I don't remember that being like a big barrier last year. Yeah, I think maybe they would just like to have it like for more verification that you are indeed a human being living in the United States and a citizen and all that. If you are not a US citizen, if that is the case, and you have an alien registration number, that would be great. Last year, for parents who were not citizens, we just put in all zeros, which is what we were instructed and we've been instructed to do for years. We'll see. So if you don't have an alien registration number and you are not a citizen, like, you can put in all zeros and give that a try and see if that works. And this is the one that gets everybody a little bit, you know, queasy. Is the but really truly is fine because they all have all of our information anyway. Your federal tax information, tax documents, returns. And so this would be for 2022. And our hope, again, is that this new redesigned application is just gonna automatically make it magically appear and we won't have to gather all these documents. But again, just putting it up there just in case. So that would be your IRS Form 1040. If you have a foreign tax return, you would need that. And then if you have a tax return for Puerto Rico, I don't know that this applies to everybody, but I'm just putting it out there in case it does. The other thing that they're curious about is untaxed income. And that's child support received, any interest income that you might have, and then also veterans non-education benefits. So just know that there's a chance that they're going to ask for that, if that is something that you, some income that you have that's untaxed. And then finally on here, thank goodness we're almost done with this because like I said, it's kind of contradictory. Your information on cash, savings, checking account balances, investments, if you have them, stocks and bonds, if you have them, real estate, assets, but that's not the house that you live in necessarily. And then business and farm assets. And they, I remember that from last year. It's just kind of like a standard thing that they ask about that. Yeah, so that's on that list of required documents. Again, this is the last time I'll say it. This slide is and this information is a little bit contradictory to what we heard in the beginning, or what I said in the beginning about the fact that you won't need all of this, right? But this is better safe than sorry. Moving on. Okay. This part is a little bit tricky and confusing. I think maybe all of this is a dense topic. I will say that it's pretty heavy. There's a lot. Which parent's information do you report on the form? Okay. And so this is again, straight from their website. If your legal parents, biological or adoptive, are married to each other or are not married to each other and live together, you should report information about both of them on your FAFSA form. And this is really more stated towards the student, but you as parents can probably read it like with that lens. However, we recognize that many situations are a little more complicated. So we provided information on how to figure out which parents should provide information on the 2425 FAFSA form as a contributor. And so again, like that's where you're going to hop on their website. And if you get on there and you're feeling overwhelmed, there's always like the magnifying glass search bar, and you can just type in, who is a contributor? Like, who are my parents? Who are the parents? Like, help me out here. And I'm happy to to help parents out as well. I'm going to move to this next slide because this is another one of those scenarios that we run into where, not every family is totally traditional. And maybe it is that like there's a parent who is like really uncomfortable or concerned about their participation in like the FAFSA application and them having that information and worried that they're going to be financially responsible, which they're not, but it's a real thing. Fears are real. You can't be considered an independent of your parents. And this is again, directed towards a student just because they refuse to help you with this process. So if you do not provide their information on FAFSA form, and this is the terrible part, the application will be considered rejected and you may not be able to receive any federal aid. The most you would be able to get, depending on what the financial aid office at your college or career trade school decides, would be an unsubsidized direct loan. And the FAFSA instructions will tell you what to do if you're in this situation. So don't panic. Also, have hope, because maybe it is that if your parents, if you're a student here or you are a parent and maybe the other parent is like, I'm not, going to cooperate with this, you can have hope because maybe that's the last conversation they'll have with them. Just kidding. Hopefully not. Hopefully we're all going to like cooperate and reconcile and all of that. But it is a reality sometimes that a student may have no contact with a parent. And so if that's the case, then, if you don't contact them, if you don't know where they live, if the situation is not safe, and I don't mean physically safe, but exclusively, I mean emotionally safe as well, you have unusual circumstances that prevent the student from contacting their parents, or contacting their parents would pose a risk. And so that is a question on the form. When you complete your application, like, you check that box and you're considered just provisionally independent from your parents. And then you would just talk to the financial aid office at your college after that. And just so you all know, like, we're going to fill out the FAFSA form. Everybody is, right? It's on studentaid.gov. But ultimately, like, a lot of the conversations that you're going to have about the financial part of college are going to be with the actual colleges that your student is interested in. So you're not necessarily going to call FAFSA when you have questions. They're just going to run everything through, all the information through their calculator, and send it to the colleges. And I'll get to that in a second. But that, just want to make sure that y'all understand that part of it, is that, like, if you are confused or you really strongly disagree with, like, the financial aid outcomes that are reported once all of this application is finished and you get your outcomes, that is totally negotiable between you and the colleges and their financial aid folks. There are letters of appeal opportunities. I mean, I've called on students' behalf and, like, gotten clarification on certain things, just because it's complicated, and you want to make sure that you're making an informed decision, that you feel like you've done everything possible to make sure that you're being responsible and, saving money where you can. So yeah, just know that, like, the colleges are going to be who you actually do a lot of communicating with. And that being said, like, oftentimes families, and it's happened here at Crosstown to many families, where, like, they'll go to fill out the FAFSA form. And for example, this year, you parents are providing tax information from 2022. Well, maybe the landscape of your finances and your lives were really different in 2022. Maybe that was, like, your great year, right? And maybe it was at the beginning of 2023 that things changed a lot, and you're still figuring that out, and your finances maybe are not what they were. You can totally appeal to the colleges and explain to them, hey, our income was this year, and in 2023 it's this, and we appreciate the financial aid offer, but we're here to ask you if you would be willing to work with us and consider our 2023 income, even though we haven't filed taxes, rather than 2022. So just know that, like, if you are in that like ebb and flow of finances, there's totally resources, and there are ways to work with that, and colleges have and can and will. So fear not. Okay, so there are two FAFSA application types. So you kind of have two options, and this is helpful because, a lot of you parents who are here are probably, like, I bet some of y'all are a little younger than I am, but, like, some of us like to do things on paper. There are those of us who would much prefer, because maybe we were born in the 70s or born in the 80s, like, like, we want to do everything on paper. You can totally print out a PDF, or if your student is at school and they're like, hey, we want to fill out FAFSA, but we don't have a printer at home, print it for you guys here. You can print out a PDF and do it on paper and then mail it in. Totally legit. For those of you who are like, I don't like, that's overwhelming, I'm more of an electronic person, you can fill out the application on the FAFSA website. So just know that there are options. If you're a person who, like, feels overwhelmed when you're on a computer or under pressure, there's always that option of filling it out on paper and mailing it in. So, and again, like, if you don't have a printer at home, I can print it here for you and send it home with your student, and you all can look at it together and fill it out. So just know that you have that option. Okay. So on the screen, I've got student aid index. This is a new term in the realm of redesigned FAFSA, and it is awesome in my opinion. Like, the name of it is great because the old name was really upsetting and made every parent feel like, I don't know. It called up some feelings that made me nervous. Like, I can't believe they're calling it. I wish I could even remember what it was. It must not have been that great. I already forgot about it. But anyway, student aid index is basically your, it's a number. It's a number that is generated by a formula that includes your financial information, right? And it also includes, it's mostly your financial information. That's what it is. And you can read all this again on the studentaid.gov website. But the student aid index is the eligibility number that ends up going to the financial aid office at the colleges that your senior is applying to. Okay. And I'll get to how all of that happens in just a moment, because it's actually pretty easy. But this is the number that allows them to determine like how much federal aid you're going to get, whether you qualify for Pell Grants. And then the school can also look at it depending on their cost, right? Because all of these schools cost different amounts of money. And so, you know, the federal government, the FAFSA folks will give you more money for certain schools than others, depending on the cost. It's a really wacky formula that's calculated. However, that is the outcome, is what we could say. That's why I got like the equal sign next to it. Is like the student aid index, or they'll call it the SAI, that acronym for short, is basically like your outcome. I don't know that like any of us are actually going to see that like student aid index number and know anything more than, okay, that's it. Because we are not, you know, we're not in the financial aid office. We don't know the cost of everything. We don't, you know, they're going to figure all of that out. And then what will happen is the colleges will contact your student and say to them, hey, we received your student aid index from FAFSA and we're calculating it, and we're going to send you your financial information. And then they send you your financial aid offer. And that is when we have that hard job of comparing the opportunities and the choices that we have in front of us and figuring out which one is the right fit. And there are plenty of families over the years who are like, we are going where the price is right. We're going where it will cost us zero, or like, you know, like a few $100s a year. Like there are plenty of families who feel that way, but there are also families or students who will feel like, well, this certain school has this certain program with these certain opportunities and teachers, and I'm really attached to it. And student is willing to take on the loans because they really want that experience. And, you know, sometimes that's worth it for them. So you're going to eventually, like down the road, have all of that like marinating, I guess you could say, to do, like where you look at the cost and you're thinking about and weighing what feels like it's the right choice. And this is a little nerve-wracking for parents because you know, we're used to making all of the decisions for our students, and yeah, like they're weighing in on this too, because yeah, so we'll get there. We're not there yet, don't fret, but we'll get there. And what I told several students this today is that like the right path reveals itself. However it does. It sounds kooky. It's all woo woo, but I've seen it over and over and over again, is that when all of these incredible works of art that are our students, they're just fantastic human beings. They take responsibility. They set up a bunch of different choices. Things line up, and it just becomes apparent what the right choice is every time. So just know that, like, you know, if we can hold that vision, to trust the process, like I said, I know it sounds kooky. It's real. It happens. It works out. Okay. So back to like how the colleges receive the FAFSA information. So when your student is filling out the FAFSA, I don't think this is the case for the parents, but just so you parents know that this is how it happens. When your senior is filling out their FAFSA form on their account, one of their responsibilities and one of the big steps is for them to add in to the application which colleges they're applying to, so that the federal aid folks can send that student aid index to the college. So it's really important. And I recommend, if they will let you, or, if they won't let you, let me know, because I will ask them to come to my office and pull it up so that we can look at it together. I'm here to back everybody up. I just want to make sure that we're, somebody's looking at it. We want to make sure that like all of the colleges that they add in are actually the colleges that they're applying to. You wouldn't believe this. Actually, you would, I bet. There are like 2 different Lincoln colleges. There are 4 different Columbias. We've got College of Charleston, we've got Coastal Carolina, then you have University of Charleston in West Virginia. Like it's really, really easy to mix up the names of colleges. There's a community college in Chattanooga that is often mixed up with UT in Chattanooga. Just trust me. We just want to make sure that like your student like very clearly has the right school when they're entering it in, because then otherwise they are wondering why their college doesn't have their financial aid information, and it's because like they sent it to a different one. So we just want to make sure, just like the social security numbers and like all the numbers, we just want to be really attentive to those details, because it's really easy to mix them up. Okay, if you make a mistake on your FAFSA, it's okay. It's okay. I made a mistake on mine. It's totally fine. They catch it. It's really great. Like it's super easy. Mine was caught immediately. I didn't get an email, but I did immediately get a letter in the mail that said, hey, you checked this box, but you also checked this box and that doesn't match. And I was like, oh, I did. And so I was able to just correct it really quickly on the form that they mailed to me and then mail it back to them. Easy peasy. And that reminds me, and I'm sorry that I didn't add this onto a slide so the text is not on the screen. Every once in a while, I shouldn't say every once in a while. I think I read somewhere that like in years past, the FAFSA folks will choose like a third of their applicants for verification, meaning like, they feel like it would be irresponsible if they were just believing everyone and everything that they submitted and applied, all the information they put in. And so they're going to like basically audit a third of the applicants. I was audited last year by them. And so basically just what it meant was like, I had to provide them with a little bit more tax info. And it was fine. Everything worked out fine, but it just looks really fishy when it happens because they don't use their own website to follow through on the verification. They have like a third party that does it. And so it totally looks like a scam, but it's not. It was legit, turned out. And it actually, there was one other graduate last year who was audited. And I was so glad or I shouldn't say audited. I just use that word because it, aligns with it. But they call it verification. There was one other senior, and when he brought that information to me, I was like, oh, well, I did this too. Like, let me help you with it. So if that is the case for you, I can help you with it again. Okay. So questions, because I know there are probably a bazillion, or if you are feeling like you're good for now, that's fine too. I don't want to overwhelm you all, but I know that this is a lot.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You went back to a part discussing the FAFSA form, and you said that what if a parent is absent, like they done Bob, you can't trace them, they don't want to be contacted. How does a person handle that? Because there are going to be a lot of students that are like that.
Oh, totally. I agree. They basically are like, that's fine. I think that they want you to put forth like all of the effort that you potentially can to get all of the information. But ultimately, like, we all have boundaries, and we're not gonna, do anything that's gonna put us all at risk. Like, we're gonna back off. And if there's a parent that's not in the picture, which is totally the case for the majority of students, we're just not going to provide that information. If they're not contributing to the household, if they're not and they're not a partner to you, then yeah, we're not going to provide that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's weird. I agree. Like, I had questions about that too. I was like, wait a second, they're requiring, two parents to provide information. Like, that's not how it works. That's not how the world works. So, and families are not like that. So
Right.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there if there are any hiccups, but I'm pretty sure that they have, and I can look. I had it pulled up on the screen. I can look for like the web page that had the information about that, and I'll make sure to share that with parents. Let me write that down. And then that way you guys have a better idea of like what to expect.
Yeah, because I know, like, if I know I can't be the only one, because I know, and I'm a part of a youth group too. So sharing that information, I'm pretty sure parents have that concern.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Understandably. And that was actually, I've been to several webinars about this FAFSA redesign along with other counselors. And oh, y'all, if y'all could see the chat in those webinars, the counselors are just like, what? My mind is blown. I can't believe they're requiring both parents to put all this information in. That's going to like disqualify so many students. I think that they kind of backed off of that because the last thing that I read said, don't worry, we understand that all kinds of families look all kinds of ways. We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And again, with this whole deal, there are things that can be known, right? That like they've published about it. But I'm excited to see it because there are things that I'm curious about or I'd like clarification on too. And I'll go to these webinars and I'm like, yes, we got the info, but I don't know. I'm just somebody who really wants to see it for themselves so that I can look at it from the lens of, all of my students' parents and varying situations. So yeah, I can't wait.
Leah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Hey, I went back to school a few years ago, and so I filled out a FAFSA, I guess, for myself, because when I went in to try to create the ID, I was like, oh, this looks familiar.
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
like, you already have an account. So how does that work when I'm trying to fill out a form for my daughter? And I already have an account.
It's totally fine. So you have the account. You're actually kind of the head of the game because getting that account, logging in, and all of the like 9-step verification that they put on there. They want your phone number, they want your email and a code and all of that. So that's great. So today, right? Like what is this? The 29th. The FAFSA application is not open for students who are graduating in May and hoping to go to college next year, planning on that. So once it actually opens and I say, okay, and let me back up. Sorry for those of you who are listening. If hypothetically, like if you went to the FAFSA website today and you have an FSA ID already, like you do, you're hearing me say, it's not open. It's not open. The FAFSA is open right now, but only for students who have already graduated and maybe are starting college this January 2024, right? So oftentimes, like, I think that's people's experiences that they say, well, she said that it wasn't open, but I see that it's open. And it's like, well, it's not open for us, like for this class of 2024. Right. So when that application does actually open, you'll be able to go to specifically on the website 2024, 2025 application. Like it'll appear, this is terrible, but I'm like somewhere at the top, but it'll appear as an option, right? It doesn't appear now. And then the thing that's like, it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of confusing because, we're not there yet. But one of the very first like things that pops up after you go to the application is a screen that asks you to identify who you are. So you'll be able to say, I'm a parent. And then you'll still be able to log in using your FSA ID. But now, this role is changing. And it's not just you filling out the FAFSA for yourself as a student, it's you filling it out as a parent now. So it will guide you through the steps. And also just for everybody who's here, we would love for FAFSA to open December 1st. Doesn't look like it's going to, but if you do hop on there before, like we all have screen time again together, sometimes like when you're starting out the application, you'll feel like, well, this is just taking me in a circle, but stick with it because like you'll hit that thing that says like, I'm a parent, and then it will act like you never filled out FAFSA or you've never had an account, but you have. And if you just keep taking the steps, it will get you to the right place. I'm curious to see if they have redesigned that part yet, because I, as a user, both as a counselor and as a parent last year, I was like, this makes us feel like the website is glitching, because it looks like it's taking us just kind of in a circle. It's not. Like you just have to like stick with each step, and then it takes you where you need to be. So I encourage you all to like go ahead and like click around like maniacs when you get in there, because that's going to be the thing that opens up the next steps for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So one question that I did not put on a slide, or like scenario that I did not put on a slide, that I think is going to be true for many of us is that, in my family, and I'll like, just to be like really transparent, and it's just how it is right now. Like my family, we did not, file taxes in 2022. Or for 2022, it was not done. We filed extensions. My dad was actually really ill last spring, when it came to be, and actually all last year, and he did pass away in the summer. But it was just never a priority. We had so much going on with, just in life, because life happens. And, so my family filed an extension, and so one of the things that my family has to do, that I have to do, and I speculate that there will be other families who have to do this as well, is we have to make those 2022 taxes and filing them a priority. Because filling out the FAFSA is going to require that information. So it's kind of funny. With the application coming open in December, like I actually had a conversation with my husband a couple of weeks ago, and I reminded him, I was like, yeah, we've got to get that done, because the application is going to open in December. And the best way for us to prepare and be ready for what my daughter needs is for us to go ahead and make those taxes a priority. And everybody's situation is different. Like I said, life happens sometimes, or whatever. There are all kinds of different circumstances, but a tax form, some sort of like just tax information in general, but especially like having that return in particular is what they're curious about and what they want to know. So, if you are a family who either filed an extension, or maybe you haven't filed in a few years, we'll figure it out. But if you do need to file, like me, if you filed the extension and you need to actually complete it and follow through like I do, Do it. Do it. Let's do it. I will be your accountability buddy and make it happen. Because that's going to just make things easier. And also, like, you know, adult stuff. This was a lot of adulting here on this set of slides, I do have to say. And I'm proud of all of you for sticking through it, because it is just really, it's really, it's tough. I'm curious if y'all have any more questions. You're welcome to unmute yourself, or if you would rather, you can put a question in the chat, or if you'd rather, you can put a question like a direct message to me and can talk about anything else. Any big questions?
I sent you a question in chat, but is there
Oh.
any way that I can discuss that further with you, maybe another day?
For sure. Yeah, I got you.
Because it
And
is
I'll
a very unique situation. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out what we need to do.
yeah, that's what, like, that is, I'm totally down for that. And I will help. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Like I said,
Yeah.
anybody is like curious about, like, I've got this certain situation or special circumstance, like, yeah, we'll figure it out. I just know that, like, I'm not worried about it. And I hope that you will not, because we will navigate it together, and get it worked out.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay, so question here is that I see in the chat is that, will my child register on the same website as well? Yes. And oh, how could I have left this part out? Your seniors made an attempt and some were successful. Maybe we overloaded the FSA website this morning. So many of them went ahead and created their FSA IDs. I was floored. I was so proud of them, and I told them, and I told their advisors, this is a big deal. You guys are taking some big steps. Present you is looking out for future you, and your parents, your families are going to be so proud of you for just like putting one foot in front of the other and doing this, because this is the first step to figuring out what's next. And many of them were successful in creating their FSA ID. It does take, I think, 3 days for it to be like officially verified. However, if they got a confirmation email, they're in good shape. If they didn't, because there were many of them who tried to log in, and I think that, like, when they put their phone number in, the FSA website said, that phone number is already taken. And they had never looked at the website at all. And never seen it before today. And so I feel like there's an error there. Maybe it was a website overload. I don't know, but it did tell us on the FAFSA site to call them or like contact them. And so many of them sent an email. I'm going to follow up with them, but that's one of the reasons why we start like a little bit. I try to start them a little bit early, just in case that there are some hiccups. I am so proud of them. First thing in the morning, whether it's a Monday or a Wednesday, which are the 2 times this week that they have had me in their faces. That's a lot. First thing in the morning on a Monday or on a Wednesday. And also like talking about really like dense content and these like crazy wacky steps and all of this terminology. They are doing so well. I'm so proud of them. I hope that you all are too. Like, they're really doing a great job of thinking about what's next, which is not at all the nature of the brain of an adolescent. And I say that in no way to be insulting or diminish, because they're brilliant, but developmentally, it's really difficult for them to think about, a couple years from now, or even next year, or even sometimes even next week. It's really hard to imagine that. So, yeah, they're doing so well. I'm really impressed with their vision that they have and the way that they hold space for possibilities. We got a lot of great choices this year, and they're really taking steps to make sure that they've got choices for after they leave Crosstown and go out into the world and continue as lifelong learners. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I'm Leah Keys. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself at the beginning of the meeting again, but I think you guys are probably tired of talking to me or hearing from me. But I've got my email there just in case there are questions that come up. Right now is like, I mean, all semester has been like a revolving door of of wonderful, wonderful work that students have been doing. And so it's a busy time. It may take me, a day or so to email back with answers, but I'm really, really glad that y'all came here tonight. And I'm really am hopeful that we can get some answers about the opening of FAFSA. I'm also happy to happy to answer questions if it is the case that all of December we're sitting around waiting for FAFSA to open at the very end. Like, I can answer questions and, maybe even offer like a little review of all of this if it is the case that we're waiting until New Year's to be able to fill it out, because this is a lot and I wouldn't remember it all, except that's my job and I do, because I do it. I'm very focused on it. So anyhow, if you all have questions, again, always feel free to reach out to me, email me. And then, we can like most of the time we can answer those questions over email. And then, I can always figure out, if you need a phone call, I can call you from the school office. I'm supposed to have a phone up here, but I can't get it to work anyhow. I'm around. Again, I'm like so thankful for you all slogging through this. This was long and you all do not need to be held hostage by me anymore. And this is going to be fine. We're just going to take it one step at a time and figure out what it's going to look like. And, we'll do our best. We will. I hope that all of you have a fabulous night. I am so grateful to work with your children. You hear me say it all the time. They are works of art. I'm going to start crying. They are works of art. And it's my privilege to get to walk this path with them and imagine what can be. So thanks for being here tonight. And thank you for sharing them with me. And I hope that you have a great night. I'll talk to you all soon.